Hello to all you amazing resellers out there in podcast land. This is episode number 243 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is November 12th, 2025, and my guest is Jason in Arkansas. No announcements this week, so let's dive in.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back. I have a Facebook/internet star with us today. Jason, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Excited
Yes,
to get to talk to you.
I found you on Facebook in my insomnia scrolling one night and thought, wow, you have a big business. And I want to get into talking about how you do all that. So let's start with where you're located.
So I'm in Fayetteville, Arkansas, in the northwest corner, amongst the Ozarks. So it's beautiful here.
Okay, great. And when did you start eBay and how did that happen?
Yeah. So back in August of 2016, my wife and I were living in Colorado at the time in Denver. And we had taken a weekend to go into a mountain town to celebrate our anniversary. And my wife and I love to thrift. And I had sold on eBay before, just odds and ends around the house, electronics and things like that. But as far as like turning the clothing business on, we had gone to a thrift store and we were just looking around, and I found some pants that a couple pairs of pants that were like $8 each, and they were higher end outdoor pants. And I knew these were worth a lot of money. So I was honestly looking at them for myself, and I thought, if I don't like them, I'll just flip them online. I don't know why I had that thought, but I just did. It's not something I was doing at the time, and I ended up selling those, and they sold for an average of $40 a piece. And so that got me thinking after those sold, what do I have around the house that I can sell, like clothing, or what am I not using anymore? And that's really, after that weekend and those sales, I started going to thrift stores, and I was working at the time, but I started going to thrift stores to find stuff to flip, and that kind of started the clothing journey for me.
Okay. And so that was in 2016. So you've
Yep.
been at it almost 10 years.
Yep.
And is this your full-time income?
This is my full time since April of 2018.
Okay. And talk about what made you take that jump to eBay full-time, because that's a scary jump, especially if you have benefits and all of that.
Yeah, it is a scary jump, and that's something I didn't take lightly. Obviously, at the time, that's about a year and a half from the time I started to the time I ended up quitting my job. My wife was working as well. We had great jobs and we had great salaries, but it's not like we were bringing in a ton of money. And so we were very careful and, checking in every once in a while. And I would share with her, like, here's where my business is, here's how much I'm bringing in. I think, the first like 6 to 7 months, I really saw it as a hobby. Like, this is fun. It'll bring in a few extra $100 a month, which will be great for us. And at the time, just like reinvesting all of my profits. I started off with $200. I reinvested everything back into the business. And so I sold one, I went and bought 4 more items. I sold those, went and bought 15 or so, I just continually churning more. And 7 months in, March is, typically when people are coming out of like the slumber of winter and they're starting to buy again. And my sales like shot up. This was 2017, about 6 to 7 months after I started, like tripled from the month before. And that's when I started thinking, oh wow, maybe I can do this full time. Like I didn't really think going into it, this will be a full-time thing for me. I just thought I'm having fun and just doing this. And so that's when I started the conversation of, can this be a full-time thing? And I started reaching out to I had an entrepreneur friend who was very successful in not necessarily flipping clothing, but a different aspect of reselling. And he was just like, hey, most people say, or a good point of advice is, if you can get 25% of your salary working a part-time hustle, then it's a good place to consider going full-time. But for me, I'm a little more on the cautious side. So it's like, well, I really want like half of my income coming in. So my wife and I would continue to talk about it. And we were just like, it's not, we're not ready yet. We haven't even been through a full retail cycle. Let's just continue to see. So I waited another year after that conversation. I had started to build it up at this point, about a year and a half in, I had 700 items online on eBay only. And um, honestly, I was at work and a friend of mine just quit his job on a Monday morning. He had it on Friday and he was like, I'm
Uh-huh.
done. And I was thinking, I want to do that. And so, this had been a long going conversation. It wasn't on a whim, but just on this Monday morning, I went to work and work had just gotten slow. And I had like 4 hours of work to do in 8 hours. And I'm just sitting there with those extra 4 hours, just trying to look busy and trying to like stretch out my work. And I'm thinking, man, I really wish I could go build my business full time. Like that's where all the excitement was for me. And I had this feeling of, I need to quit my job. And so that day, I took the day to think about it. It's like William, when he quit his job, it created this like spark in me that was like, man, he did it. And I know he doesn't have any prospects and I have something going over here. So I took the day, I talked to my wife and she was like, I trust you. And if you feel like that's the direction to take, then go for it. I talked to a friend and then I basically said to my manager, hey, can we chat at the end of the day? And I had asked for a raise like a few months before that. So I thought they may come and they'd give me a raise, but I thought they're going to offer me more money to stay because I was a piece of the business that was valuable. Um, and they did, they were like, if we can get you more money, would you stay? And I'm like, no, my excitement for that job had left. My
Right.
excitement for eBay was there. And so I quit, I put in 2 weeks notice. And I just remember waking up, I quit on my last day was on a Friday. I remember waking up that Monday following and just being like, is this real? Like, am I really, I don't have to go into work. I don't have to answer to anyone. Like I get to do how I want to build this. I get to choose. And it was just really fun for me. Like those first beginning days. And it was also scary too. Like you alluded to, it's because up until this point, I hadn't taken any money out. And now it's like, I have to now take a salary. And so that's going to, pull money out of the business. And I have to make sure I'm bringing in a lot more than that to keep going. So that was kind of the journey. About a year and a half after starting it is when I quit. So
What kind of work did you
quit my
do
job.
that you left and you lost a passion for?
So I was in mortgage in the Denver market. I was a closer, and so I prepared like the documents for
Hmm.
a closing on a house, and I enjoyed it at first, but after 3 years doing that, I just kind of lost the excitement for it. So
Yeah, it can be pretty repetitive, just the same
yep,
documents, the same things over and over again, and stressful because the people want the mortgage, but you got to jump through
yeah,
all the hoops to make it work. So,
yep, yep,
and sometimes it doesn't work, and you have to
yep.
tell them that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you've got someone expecting to close on a house on a certain day and then something goes wrong, which didn't happen all the time, but it's just like as a homeowner myself, I know like how exciting that is. And if you get delayed, it just kind of sucks the life out of that moment.
So the eBay problems are less significant. Oh, sure. I'll just refund your money and you can go your
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for
They're
you.
quite different. The self-employed world is a quite different beast altogether, but yeah, a lot to think about.
Yeah. And there's pros and cons. And
Hmm.
the pros are you can work as much as you want and you will reap the benefits.
Hmm.
You're not making someone else rich. You're
Hmm.
working for yourself. But then when there's slow times, or I call it being in the valley, uh, it's all on you. You got to figure it out. You got to
Yeah.
budget for the whole year with its ups and downs. And that's stressful. It's scary for people who have never
Hmm.
done it. Just, you have to have
Yeah.
faith in yourself
Hmm.
to make it work. So, by the way, I always look at the backgrounds. I love your shoe setup.
Yeah, that's pretty
What
new.
are those black cubes?
They're yeah, storage cubes that I got on Amazon. Um, Relatively inexpensive, but it just yeah, I was storing them in bins and I'm like, man, I can get like 20 shoes in a bin. I can get like 40 shirts or clothing. So this was a much more efficient way for me to do it.
So they look, for the listeners, they look like milk crates, but they're not. They're solid. So do they come in segments that you snap together?
Yeah, so you've got to assemble the whole thing. They're all like, I don't know what the material is, but you just kind of snap them together and you
Mhm.
can build it however you need to customize it. So I just did one big giant cube, but you can obviously tailor it to your office or your room and space. So
Yeah. And I like to see everything so I can find it quickly,
yeah,
either
that's the benefit.
clear bins or something like that, where you just got the shoes set in there so you can find them in a hurry. How
hmm
many items do you have in your store now?
So I'm hovering around 2,200. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm about maxed out on the space that I have to store all of that. So um, yeah,
And is it just you? Does your wife help? Do you have employees or
it's
helpers?
just me. Nope, just me and my wife. She works from home as well, but she's doing her own thing, works for a
Mhm.
company, and it's pretty much just me. So
Okay. Well, wow, you've really built a big business for one person. I found you on Facebook and I like the way you do your reels, as far as, here's a brand, here's what I paid, here's what it sold for. And you're not paying just a dollar for things. You're paying up. That's the way our Goodwills are here in South Carolina. It's $5 for shirts, pants, sweaters, all of that.
hmm
And you're not old enough to go on senior day, so you don't get the discount. A little bit helps there, but
I love it when they ask though, it's like, okay, if it's not obvious.
well, that's when you say, "Well, do you think I'm a senior?"
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then they're like, "Oh, let's give you a discount."
Yeah.
What year were you born?
1981.
Okay, so you got a little ways to go there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep,
Yeah, that's when you wear a baseball cap and some readers and
yep,
you look
yep,
old.
yep.
Because a lot of information on social media about reselling is going to the bins and getting stuff for 50 cents. And you have a business model that's a little different. Your upfront
hmm
costs are a little bit more. And I'm kind of on that trajectory too, as far as it's plentiful, it's out there, I can flip it, but I can't change the price. I've got to pay what
hmm
they're asking, or figure out a way to get a discount, whether it's a senior discount or do your Goodwills do the color sale each week?
Yeah, they've got one color that's half price every week.
Okay, right. So they're all different down here in South Carolina. They do they do the half price color sale. It starts on Sundays, but then on Wednesdays they start pulling that and putting everything in a certain section that is a dollar. So
Okay, that's great.
sometimes you can find stuff, it's it's a different situation when you can get it for a dollar. Like you might not pay $6 for
hmm
it, but I'll pay a dollar for it. Some of
It
your
definitely opens up a lot more options and opportunities with inventory.
right. So what is your strategy when you are out picking?
Um, I mean, even saying that, I remember when I moved here back to Arkansas, which is where I grew up, shirts were like $3.99, $4.99. They've since gone up since then. Um, it's more so, I have a lot of bread and butter stuff that's just boring stuff to sell, but I sell enough of them a day and, they bring in anywhere from $7 to $15 profit. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
the range for those. So that's the bulk of things that I sell. Those $7 to $15, and seven is more on the low end. I'm really not shooting
Mm-hmm.
for seven, but it happens. I really want that like $12 to $15 range, and then of course you're going to find home runs, and you're going to find things that sell for 65 or 100, or but in order to buy in quantity, I really have to focus on some of those items that just don't bring in as much. And I think in the past I looked more at per item, like I'm going to make $8 on this, or I'm going to make 12. Now I see it more as I spent eight, or then that would be high, or I spent 5 or 6 to make 12. So I doubled my money. And I think getting out of the what's each item going to bring in to be more like, okay, how much cash flow am I bringing in? How much I mean, honestly, if I could take my bank account and invest that and make 2 to 3 times that, and then that would be great. But it's a matter of finding the items and also being smart when you're looking. So I try and stay out of like, I don't really think about the cost. I mean, obviously cost comes in, as you know, it's a factor, but it's more so finding those items that are higher end so that the margin is there and they sell faster. And so I stay away from a lot of like mall brands and
Hmm.
stay away from a lot of mainstream stuff just because it's so flooded.
Right.
Even things like Nike and Adidas. I mean, there's so much stuff out there with Nike and Adidas, and I'm very particular when it comes to what I'm finding. So if I find something that I know is worth 30, I'll gladly pay 6 or 7,
Hmm.
or even maybe a little more. So
Yeah, and I think that's most of us that are pickers. You see the big sales, the big scores, but even those people that have regular big sales, they have their bread and butters. You have to have that.
mhm.
I think you have to
Yeah.
have a mix for the momentum of the business.
Hmm.
Some days all you
Yep.
get is a couple of $15 sales, but you add that up over a year, and that's significant.
Hmm.
So, what would you say you specialize in, or is there anything?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I started off with men's outdoor gear. I was in Denver, which is a mecca of outdoor gear. I mean, I was finding a lot of Patagonia, North Face, and just even more obscure brands than that. And that's where my passion comes from. And so I've expanded since then, but even coming back to, as long as inventory isn't an issue, finding enough, kind of coming, I've zoomed out and I'll continue to learn other brands and other departments, but I really get excited about outdoor gear. It's what I feel like I know more about.
Mm-hmm.
And when I list it, I'm more excited when I find something that's just like, I know the value of it and I know why it's important or why it's valuable. And so that's where I want to stick. So I don't do a lot of women's clothing for that reason. I did at a time, but I just got to where I was like, I'm not excited about this. And for other reasons, I just dropped it for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And so even just talking the other day with a friend about coming back to more of a specialized in outdoor gear. And again, I'll always have the bread and butter stuff, but focusing the emphasis on that. So if I had to niche, that's what I would say.
Well, you've built your business up, so now you can coast along a little bit if you want
Hmm.
to change products lines, experiment with different things.
Hmm.
I see you sell a lot of shoes.
I I do, and they're not fun to take pictures of, but I definitely love when the sales come in because you're looking at a higher sales price.
Right. Yeah. So, and it's what you're able to find in your area too.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
um, you kind of stay away from breakables. You're more
Yeah,
clothes
I
and
did it one
things.
time. I would sell I had mugs, and I didn't do a lot, but I'd look for mugs and I'd look for like plate sets, like a set of 8 plates that were all the same. And I just got to where I was like, why am I doing this? They're heavy.
Mm-hmm.
They take up so much space, and then you got to worry about them breaking. And I had a few instances, and I'm like, I'm just done with these. And yeah, you can find a plate set that sells for $100 or so or 60, but at the end of the day, I'm like, again, it goes back to I'm not excited about this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna leave those behind. But I still look for the occasional like Starbucks "You Are Here" mug, or some of
Right.
those things that can
Yeah.
sell
You know
faster.
what the big scores are, but you hit the nail on the head there with you have to be excited about it. You have to
Hmm.
like it. And
Yeah.
we had who was it, Holly, on a few weeks ago, and her specialty is VCRs.
Uh-huh.
She sells other, she doesn't do any clothing. She doesn't like clothing, which is good that we all like different things, but she does VCRs, and she talked about how she tests them in the store, and she has an older TV at home so she can hook it up and test it and put a test video in and send a that test tape with the item when she sells it, so they can ruin
Hmm.
a free tape instead of one of their own if that's going to happen. And so that's what gets her excited, or
Uh-huh.
whatever the specialty is. And I've been doing this a long time, and I switched around a lot, and really got into ephemera over the last year, but it sells really slow, and
Uh-huh.
it is a lot of work if it's a collection of things like letters or a whole bunch of pamphlets. You know, you got to take all the pictures and research it. It's a lot of research if you don't
Mm-hmm.
know it. So
Yep.
I'm kind of gravitating back towards clothes and shoes now. Well, I moved and I'm in a different area that is, let's just say I am near Tega Cay, South Carolina, which is the most affluent city in
Oh,
South
wow.
Carolina. I'm not in it, I'm next to it.
Yeah.
And that was on purpose for this business because
Yeah. You've got some good sources
yeah,
there.
the estate sales are going to be better. The garage sales are
Mm-hmm.
going to be better. The thrift stores are better. I scoped it all out. So it does matter where you're located, like
Uh-huh.
how good the pickings are. But
Yep.
I don't know what I'm gonna get into and experiment with next. I'm with you on like clothing. You kind of just know after a while.
Mm-hmm.
You just know. Okay, this LL Bean pullover you're wearing, you know how much that sells for, and you don't have to think about it a lot. And I
Right.
think I heard a term the other day. It's called decision fatigue, and I think I got
Mm-hmm.
into that with all these new products. The decision of how to price it. Do I want to sell this? And I kind of want to go back a little bit to what I know so I can just coast along and it's easy and it's fast and do that again for a while and kind of give my brain a rest.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, what kind of things have you experimented with other than breakables that you were just like, yeah, that's not for me?
Um, I mentioned women's, and I still sell women's. I'll look for like women's shoes and
Okay.
sometimes like coats and jackets and things like more outerwear that kind of go in that outdoor world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I used to, it's fun. I was preparing for this and I was looking over like previous sales spreadsheets and just looking like items I've sold and kind of refamiliarizing myself. And I sold a lot of women's jeans and
Mm-hmm.
I would just get a lot of returns because, women's sizing are different and you've got a few different sizing types, I guess. And then you've got,
Oh
every
gosh, with
brand.
jeans, you've got all the different waistlines, you've got the different, inseams and are they
Yep.
flared? Are they skinny? And there's
Yep.
so many variations. And you're right.
Yeah.
We got to try them on.
Yeah. And I mean, there's definitely, there are people that are very successful with it, but I was just like, I'm getting more returns. They're taking longer. I'm not getting as much money. And so I stopped women's jeans for the most part. I'll occasionally go down that aisle and I don't look at every item. I'm just looking quickly at the tags. I'm like, okay, that's like a $50 pair of jeans. I'll take that one. But
Right.
the $20, I'm leaving behind on women's clothing. Trying to think what else. Yeah, that I used to do like electronics, VCRs and DVD players and things like that. But yeah, it comes back to breakable storage, heavy. You got to test it, and so yeah, let those things go.
Well, I saw a
I'll let
hat you
some.
posted on your Facebook. It was a red, was it Nike Trail hat?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was a recent big score for me.
And did you sell it yet, or you were just showing a
Uh-huh.
comp
Yep.
price? You
Yep.
did sell it for like $100.
I sold it for 80. I took a best offer
Okay.
within
Okay.
12 hours of listing it. Yeah, but I had several watchers on it on multiple platforms and I thought, you know what? I paid $6 for this. I'm not going to try and get greedy and make 100. I mean, I could wait and get that 110 sale, or I can just get 80 now. So, um, yeah, crazy to me that that hat sold for $80 within 12 hours.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're more of a turn and burn, which why
I'm
not?
getting there.
Because
Yeah.
there's so much out there
Yeah.
and it's never going to stop. This flow of products into, are you mostly thrift stores or do you do garage sales too?
Yeah. I love yard sales. It's just I find them in this area harder to be consistent with it and find great stuff. In Denver, every Friday when it was great weather, I would go and I loved it. That was my favorite day because you're getting out, you're outside, Denver's sunny, it's great weather, and you're talking to people, but also for the most part, you're getting really good deals. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
$2 for a shirt, that's better than the thrift store at
Mm-hmm.
5. So, yeah, and finding like those more rare, unique pieces because a lot of times people are just like, I just need it out. I don't care how much I get for it. I just want a couple bucks.
Yeah. Or, buy one, get three free, whatever it
Yeah.
takes to get rid of their
Or
stuff.
Yeah, or you just grab a bunch of stuff and you're kind of adding it up in your mind, but you just throw it in on their little table and say how much for all of this, and make a bundle deal. So I love the yard sales. That's what I would do if I could, but here it's not as consistent.
Yeah, that's true. It all depends on where you are. What are some of your biggest scores in your eBay career?
So the biggest clothing item I've ever sold was I paid $6 for a very long Burberry like wool trench coat.
Mm-hmm.
Very heavy. I mean, it was a beautiful piece, and I didn't really know Burberry at the time. I mean, maybe I'd sold an item from them. This was at like a store that every time I would go there, I'm like, do I really want to go here? Like, those thrift stores where it's like they're dingy, the lighting is horrible, it's not put together well. It almost feels dirty when you walk in, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, and then you have another store that's like really well lit, it's put together, things are organized a certain way, and it's like, okay, so this was one of those places that I always question going there, and they've since shut down. But a couple
Of
of years
course.
ago, a couple of years ago, I found that Burberry coat, paid 6, and it sold for like 475.
Oh, yeah.
But and with clothing, it's just like it's harder to find those pieces. I mean, even like
Mhm.
$100 scores because there aren't a lot of people that market for $100 clothing items and up is just not as large as say like electronics or things like that.
Mhm.
So that was my biggest clothing score.
So
And
did
then
you get feedback on that item, or did you ever hear from the buyer?
I mean, didn't hear anything, which was great. I mean, you
Yep.
always, cross your fingers and hope that you don't get that coming back. But yeah, turned out
Yeah,
really
it's
well.
funny
So
how you get the backlash from the lower dollar sales. Like,
yeah.
sold something for $9 the other day just to get rid of it. And like, well, this is a little faded around the hem and all. And I'm like, really? Just refund their money and go away. And
Yeah.
I've sold many St. John pieces, which do you know what that is?
I don't
Okay.
find it very often, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you got to be careful because it can have moth damage. You got to hold it up to the light like
hmm
a cashmere sweater and see. So I sold several pieces of those in the last few months. Never heard a word. So it is weird how you get the complaints from the
hmm
lower dollar sales. And no news is good news as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. Yeah. That 30-day hits and you're like, all right, we're good.
Right. Yeah. I had one the other day that timed out. It was an empty perfume bottle. And I sell those. I get them for $1 or $2, and they sell for 25 to 30, depending on what it
Really?
is. People use them for decor, or they collect perfume bottles, and there's nothing in it. It's empty.
Uh-huh.
Find them at estate sales or behind the counter at thrift stores. And that's just a product line I've gotten into. But there seems to be a
Yeah.
problem with people reading the title,
hmm
because this has happened 3 times now in the last 6 months. They buy an empty, it's like Chanel or a high-end bottle, and they get it and they're like, well, there's no perfume in here. And I'm like, you're exactly right. It was an empty bottle. What's the problem? And they're like, well, it should have perfume. And I said, well, no, it says empty in the title. It says empty. It's in collectibles under bottles, and it's in the description. It's empty. It's for
hmm
collecting. I don't know if they're just not reading, or they see the picture and they just buy it right away. But this has happened 3 times. They opened a return and they didn't send it back. And I don't know if they were just
That's amazing.
embarrassed. Yeah, they were embarrassed that they didn't read it, or so you're just watching like 29th day.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be shipped back? No, it timed out. That's a win.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta count those small wins, you gotta get excited about stuff like that.
Yeah. So as a large clothing seller, how many returns do you get a month? Because that's one fear that people have of
hmm
of getting into clothing, is that, oh, there's so many returns. So what is your experience?
I don't know the number. I mean, it's hard to guess. I would say probably less than 20. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
selling 250 items a month. Certainly more than that back in the day, but I hover around that 3.5 to 4.5% return
Mhm.
rate. And so, um, it's a part of business, and there's always gonna be people. My wife and I joke because she's like that. She buys stuff, tries it on, and sends it back. And, it's part of the process, but there's always going to be those people. And so I think, it's not fun when you've got a $80 item and they do that return request. You're like, man, I wish that was a $20 item, but it's going to happen. And sometimes, you get it back and you list it and it sells for more money than it did the first time. So,
Mhm.
and especially around like January, I find a lot of returns around January when people get stuff for Christmas, or
Right.
they bought something as a gift that didn't work out and they're going to return it. So, yeah, I mean, you got to look at it as, it's just a part of business. Every retail establishment factors in returns, and they factor in loss at some point. So
Right.
you obviously don't want a lot of those, but
We call that returnuary.
yeah, exactly. That's the first time I've heard that one.
Okay, yeah, that was when I was on Amazon selling, that was a big issue. Was their return policy was extended over November through February, I think, and returns could happen within 60 days of purchase or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that was the old give the gift for Christmas. You got it on Amazon, you paid too much for it. Then after Christmas, everything levels out and the store has the stock again. So they return the one to Amazon and go buy the cheap one locally. And that was
Hmm.
just, you can't fight it. But I think, well, I know as a clothing seller for over 20 years, clothing just sells better with the return policy.
Hmm.
And if you're going to do clothing, you have to have that, because I know as a consumer, I'm not buying it without a return policy. I don't want to be stuck
Yeah.
with it. I usually don't return it if it doesn't work. I sell it.
Yeah.
And this is, it's just part of the business. Is returns are going to happen. Now, do you put measurements on your clothing?
Yeah. So this is actually a recent change for me in the last like 5 weeks. I used to just type the measurements in the description, and I would get those. You're always going to have someone who doesn't read the description. Or on the mobile app, it's kind of hard to find. eBay should really put the description where you don't have to click into it and you can see it. But I recently switched into now pictures of my measurements, because most people
Mhm.
look at pictures. Far, greater people look at pictures over the description. And so, yeah, it's kind of, you got to get used to a new way to do something. And I've got to now take
Mhm.
extra photos, but I'm not typing anything really in the description.
Right.
So it kind of washes out. But yeah, you're right on with returns, and I do the same thing too when I'm buying, and I buy on eBay and Poshmark. If I see a seller that doesn't have returns on clothing, I'm like, okay, you're my last resort. I'm not going to
Mhm.
unless you're the only one that has it,
Mhm.
because you don't want to get stuck with that item. I guess Poshmark's different because it's not really a return platform, but
Right.
on eBay, I'm definitely looking for returns of that option.
Well, and the problem, which is actually an opportunity for those of us who do provide measurements, whether you're typing it or showing a picture, is a lot of sellers don't answer. And I've
Hmm.
had this happen to me as a buyer. Talked about this before. And I have a brand, a thing that fits great, and I want it in other colors or something, but you got to
Hmm.
verify the measurements. Or if it's used clothing, it could be stretched out or it could be shrunk from being washed improperly. So I'll ask and I get nothing. I don't even get, we got your question, we're out of town, we'll get back to you the day after tomorrow. I don't get anything. So
Hmm.
you got to wonder how many buyers are just not looking at those items. Like when there's no measurements, I'm not going to bother to ask because I'm not going to get an answer anyway. Or if they have asked and they're waiting for an answer, and then they find yours that has the measurements. I just think it's a great proactive step to sell more clothing, to have your measurements on there. And I'm transitioning to that photo of the yardstick on the clothing
Hmm.
too, because it's just faster. It's so
Hmm.
much faster than typing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, like, that's a really great point you brought up about the seller not getting back. And I'm sure we've all had that experience where you're like, I mean, I'm the same. I recently had like a few t-shirts that I was trying to buy, and I was looking at measurements. Like I was like, I don't just want the size. I'm a taller guy, so I need more of that large tall. So I was looking for length. So I get that, but also like you think about it from a seller's view of this is your chance to communicate with a buyer about your business, and every word you say is going to communicate. Obviously some gets lost in tone because how much can you get from a message, but you can get a lot more than nothing. And so, and I guess what I'm saying with that is you have a way to communicate professionally and politely and generously and show them I'm trustworthy, you know, with this sale. So if you choose to buy from me, I'm going to ship what I say I'm going to ship. I'm going to ship it on time. Like people get all that from a message. And if that message is just kind of sloppily typed up and maybe even has like a rude tone, then that person may go, well, I don't want to buy from you because maybe this tells a larger story about the other, how you run your business and whether this item is even a good item. And so I recently had a buyer, this has never happened before until last week. The guy reached out, he was overseas, and he was like, I don't really buy on eBay. And I don't know why, but maybe it was just his first experience. And he said, I'm good with your item. I'm good with the price. Can you just respond to this message? And I knew what he was asking. He was like, I want to hear your tone. I want to hear your how you respond. And if I didn't respond, I was going to lose the sale. And it was like a $35, $40 item. So I just said, hey, thanks for reaching out. I totally understand your concern. I just want you to know, like, if you choose to purchase this, I'll ship it within I gave him basically my policy, and I did it in a very professional tone so that he knew I'm someone that's trustworthy. Um, and then he went and bought it like right after that. He was like, thanks so much. So, I mean, he was just really wanting to know that I wasn't, that I was trustworthy, and that's why he needed to hear from me. So that's only happened one time, and that was last week. But I think, I don't respond to every person that sends a message. There's some that I don't respond to because I'm like, I can tell this person is really particular, and that could translate into a return request later. So if I sense that, I may not respond, but I'd say 60, 70% of the time, I'm going to respond and try and tell the story of that item so that it helps them make their decision.
Yeah, I've had two of those, what I call the side eye customers, like, what?
Yeah.
In the past week, one was asking about some pillows, and she goes, well, I really love these, but do you think they will fade if I have them out on my porch in direct sunlight? And so
Probably so.
my answer was, I really have no idea. I can't guarantee anything.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is that any product left in direct sunlight is going to fade. So unfortunately, I can't promise you anything one way or the other. So, and then the next one was somebody who was purchasing something they needed this weekend. Now, this was last night, Tuesday night. And she says, can you guarantee that I'll have this by Saturday? Okay. I don't even know where she is. Like, are you one zip code over? Where are you? So I'm in South Carolina. She's in New York. I said, unfortunately, I always start with that. All I can guarantee is when I will ship it. Once it's in the hands of the USPS, I have no control over the speed or the date of delivery. Anything could happen. A tornado could go through your town and there's no mail delivery. That kind of stuff happens. So I answered her back with, I can't guarantee it. All I can guarantee is what I can do. And she said, well, I really need it by Saturday and all this stuff. And I said, that's your call if you want to take a chance on it. But what I really wanted to say was that wonderful phrase, your inability to plan does not create an emergency for me.
Yep.
Then I thought, well, the next thing she's going to say is, can you overnight this? Which involves going somewhere, UPS or however you're going to do it. That's my time. And so you're going to have to pay for the overnight fee. And then I'm probably going to add a handling fee on top of that because I got to go do this for you. And it was a $40 item. So I've learned to back away from those. The sale is not that important because I guarantee if it didn't arrive on time, there's going to be bad feedback. There's going to be all this stuff, even though I told her ahead of time, no, I can't guarantee that. So I'd rather not have those kinds of situations. Have you had stuff like that come up?
Oh yeah, and I had someone that was fine with, it's more hard, it's harder to, well, I'll just say I had someone that was like, "Can you send this faster?" Because I do ground advantage, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can do priority, I can do express. I mean, if you're willing to pay for it, I'm happy to do that."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's just harder to figure out how do you get that payment then, because you either have to like recreate a listing. Um, it's not like you can't really say like, "Here's my PayPal, send me $15 to cover the difference," because eBay doesn't allow that to go through. But
Well,
um,
they do. I asked that question. I had a back and forth thing with the buyer, and they wanted a refund. And then they realized the item really did work. They weren't operating it correctly. And I asked on the eBay Facebook page, I said, how they want to pay for this? I've already refunded them. I don't see a way to have them pay for it again. I didn't want to create another listing because then there's going to be no tracking because I'm not sending her anything. And they said it was okay to do either Venmo, Zelle, or what is it, Cash App, all that
yeah,
stuff.
really.
They said that was okay.
Oh,
So
okay,
if that
great.
ever comes up again, just ask them, and then you'll have that in your messages, because they want you to be able to make it right with the customer. And
Right.
right, all we have is the managed payments that isn't really flexible on these odd situations that come up.
hmm Yeah, you've really got to do calculated shipping where you're giving them options to choose, and I just don't do calculated shipping.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't do calculated?
I do flat rates on, not to be confused with flat rate like USPS, but I just do a flat fee. Um,
Oh, okay.
so like a 2 pound shirt is going to be 8.95,
Okay.
or yeah,
I see what you're saying. So you don't
yeah,
weigh it and put in the weight, you just have a price.
yeah. I think just because most of my clothing items are, they're pretty predictable. Like I know a shirt's going to be under 12 ounces. It's just
Right.
easier to
Yeah.
do one set shipping fee, um, and occasionally I'll lose money on shipping if it's going like way away, but that hardly ever happens. I
Yeah,
make
but we get
sure
the
I don't lose
discount.
money on shipping.
Right. Yeah. Well, I had a feedback the other day. It was for a little bottle of actual perfume. And okay, it was maybe like 3 ounces, but it takes bubble wrap, and I put it in a box. I did not put it in a padded mailer because that's not a great
hmm
idea. If it's under 400 pounds of mail in this glass, it's going to crush. And the buyer, who only had one feedback, mine, because I was her first purchase on eBay, lovely item, have it was a vintage Estee Lauder bath oil. And she's like, "We can't, they don't make it anymore. I was so glad to find this, but the shipping was so expensive." And okay, she's on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. And I think shipping was around $7, but it was packaged well and in a box. And I thought,
hmm
well, at least she didn't leave a negative. She just doesn't get it with online buying, that it's all based on your distance from the seller as
hmm
well,
Yeah.
and the weight of it. I kind of just chuckled. Well, at least it was positive feedback and she liked the item, so I'm going to just go with that.
Yeah. Let's go with it. Move on.
Yeah. So do you have any goals for your business? Like, do you want to get to a certain level of number of items, or are you looking at your revenue, or where are you going to go from here?
Yeah, great question. Reselling for me, I kind of alluded to at the beginning, but as far as space, I've got maybe 300 to 500 units more I could get in this house without having to go into a storage unit or look at another option. And so I'm kind of at that point where I'm just wanting to replenish. I feel like 2,200, 2,500, somewhere in that 2,000 to 2,500 range is good for me to maintain. And then I'd say my goals. I mean, I'm always going to continue to learn more with reselling, learn brands, and learn what's selling, and hopefully make smarter purchases. But I think my goals are more evolving more away from reselling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm focused more on content now, and so for 9 years, I've always come in, listed, sourced, and done all those things that are reseller related. And now, just starting like 3, 4 months ago, I start my day, I mean, obviously I ship first, but I start my day um, creating videos and just coming up with ideas and that more strategy of content related, which I think is a little more easier to scale. And you can do that from anywhere. You can create videos from anywhere. And
Mhm.
so my goals are more content related, um, or they're at least evolving that way. So it's just keep my reselling business going, and that obviously fuels the content, which shows what I'm buying, what mistakes I'm making, what I'm learning,
Mhm.
changes I'm doing. So I'd love to get to a point. I mean, I have some more specific like financial goals with content. But it's just amazing how if you stay consistent with content and you continue to post, even when you feel like this isn't working, or it's maybe not that it's not working, but it's going slower than I would like it to go. You are building and it just takes a while. And so
Mhm.
my goals are more moving on the content side and becoming someone, um, and I guess even more long-winded than that. Any job I've had, whether it was McDonald's or corporate or this mortgage, I've always become a trainer of some sort, and I've always enjoyed passing down what I know to someone who's
Mhm.
newer. And that's how I learned reselling as well. I mean, how many of us have watched videos of resellers? And so I remember a couple that I started off with and just kind of binge watched their stuff and learned from them. And I always said, like, if I get this opportunity, I want to do the same. And so I was live this week and just had some people like expressing gratitude for what they've learned. And that makes me really excited to think I'm teaching people who maybe have no aspirations of going full time, but maybe it's just to make $300 a month or to help supplement, whatever it is they're doing. And it really makes me thankful that I'm in an opportunity where I could do that and help coach people. So I'm sure you get
Well, and
that as
that's
well.
one reason I reached out to you is because you are a little bit different than the average YouTuber. Are you on YouTube as well?
Yeah.
Or-
Yep. YouTube,
Okay.
Instagram, Facebook, and
Okay.
TikTok. Yep.
So, and your videos they show the whole cycle, not just what I found and what I'm gonna
Hmm.
list. A good portion of them are here's what I sold. And
Hmm.
that's where the proof is that it's sold. Anybody can go out and shop and fill up their van and have all this stuff, but if it doesn't get listed, or it is listed and it never sells, that's not as beneficial as like I found this, I sold this, you can do this too. That's the way I do my content as well, is the history of here's what
Hmm.
sold. And because there's just a lot of people out there creating content just for the sake of creating content. And like you
Hmm.
said, I could tell that you were some kind of corporate trainer or teacher or something along those lines. And that's just so helpful. And your reels on Facebook, they get a lot of likes and comments. So you do have
Hmm.
a big audience there. So your Facebook page is what?
It's just Jason Hayes, my name. I don't have one of those catchy thrifting names like some friends that I have, but I've wanted it to stay true to who I am. So it's
Uh-huh.
Jason Hayes, which is Hayes, which is my full name. And I've always thought if I end up doing something different, I can, I don't lose my identity as
Right.
opposed to being like um, St. Louis Flippers or something like that.
Right.
I'm
Well,
just
and
making up a
that's
name.
that question was more for the listeners so they can go look you up,
Yeah, yeah.
because you're not like the Arkansas picker. And I
Right.
did the
Yeah.
same thing with my branding years ago. I just used my name
Hmm.
in case I went to something different, or
Hmm.
a new platform came up, or it's me and they know my name. And there's so
Yeah.
many of those catchy. There's nothing wrong with it.
They are fun. I mean, let's
It's
be
just
real.
like, what if you decided to change to doing something else? Then you're going to have to start all over, or
Hmm.
change your name on that platform and explain to your followers, okay, well, I'm not doing that anymore. Now, you mentioned that you sell on multiple platforms.
eBay, Poshmark are my one and two. eBay's like 75% of my business. Poshmark makes up like another 15 to 20. And then I go back and forth on Depop and Mercari, whether I want to keep them or get rid of them. It just depends on the week and how many sales are coming in. But Yeah, they're not as consistent. So
That's kind of like me with what I'm selling. Oh gosh, I'm so sick of this. And then 6 months later, no, selling sweaters is so easy. I know it. They're fast to
yep.
list and they sell all year. And you kind of get a little bored with things sometimes because you're doing
hmm
it every day. But as we go along, well, and you've been doing this almost 10 years now, you're refining. And sometimes you go back and make the old new again because that worked. Let's see if it works again
hmm
now. And
hmm
it's constantly changing. So you seem very adaptable to that. Not stuck in one particular product line. Like you're open to trying new things, but also you know what works and what you want to keep doing.
Yeah, that's definitely been a muscle I've had to stretch because that's not my natural tendency. And my natural tendency is to get focused on one thing and not really come up for air or look around. And I've had another reseller friend that has challenged me in a lot of ways to look around and to embrace change as a positive and not necessarily see it as a negative.
Well, you're definitely one to watch. So, listeners, Jason Hayes on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. And what else
hmm
did you say?
And TikTok.
TikTok, all the ones. Good for
You
you.
got it.
Yeah. Well, I watched your shipping video. I guess it was a couple days ago where you were shipping 30 something items. Was that this week or was that the Tuesday after the postal holiday?
That was Friday to Sunday night sales,
Okay.
32. Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like a slice of life, a peek into your morning of shipping. So it's encouraging. And
hmm
with 2,200 items, you probably have pretty good momentum on your sales. Do you ever have sale days with no sales with that much inventory?
Not really anymore. I think I had
Mhm.
one in the past few years. There's always typically something that sells, but yeah, I think I had one day and I reached out to my buddy and I was like, this never happens. How did I not have a sale today? I mean, that's got to be like a fluke thing, but yeah,
Well,
it,
that's just to show that you're human and keep you honest.
yep,
We
there you
all
go.
have
Keep you
them.
humble.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have any final words for the listeners as we wrap this up?
Um, Gosh, final words. I think I would just say like, maybe I touched on a little bit, but stay consistent. It's easy, especially when you're newer to kind of, I don't know, see, is this working? And I would say like stay consistent. Don't think about your daily sales too much, but just, stay true to what your goals are and keep listing. And eventually you're growing and it may be slower than you would like, but yeah, that's how you build it. I mean, if it's worth it and if it takes time, it's worth it. But stay consistent. Show up,
Yeah.
list, hustle, do the work.
And you're living proof of that. So I hope this podcast sends some folks to your Facebook, all your things.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Thanks. That'd be great.
I really respect what you're doing and how you're doing it. And you are definitely a success story. So thanks for taking some time to come on the podcast and tell us all about your business.
Yeah, thanks so much for reaching out. This has been great. It's good talking to you.
You too. Well, have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Next week, my guest is Paula, who is a marketing guru by trade and uses AI in her regular job. She will give us a rundown of how she is using Gemini, an AI tool, for her eBay listings and give some real world strategies that any eBay seller can use. There is some valuable information you can apply to increase sales, so you won't want to miss that episode. Thanks for tuning in this week and every week. Stay positive and keep going. Make it a great week on eBay. Bye, everybody.